Welcome to the Advantage Live show. My name is Adam Gullett. I am the Director of Growth with Century 21 Advantage Realty. This is the Advantage Live show, where we focus on bringing you something of value that's going to help you build a real estate business, that's going to help you grow that to another level, right? We understand there's all kinds of information out there. There's all kinds of things you can learn. The information you can get can be overload. So the intent of this show is to bring you relevant information that is current and that you can just easily apply. Today's not going to be any different. Today, we're going to be talking about 10 ways to deliver an experience for your sellers that leads to referrals. Now, the thing about that is, we understand that we go out and we list properties all of the time and we represent sellers, but what we want to do, and in this new change and this new shift that we're beginning to see, is we've got to be able to deliver an experience for them that ultimately makes them want to refer more listings to us, more sellers to us, because it's a very competitive market that we find ourselves in. There's no doubt about it. So today is going to be a session where we're going to be talking about these 10 things. These are 10 things that basically I have just kind of begun researching, kind of pulling in from information from other realtors, going online, doing some searching from top selling agents. And I've just kind of curated them into 10 ways that agents can do this and deliver an experience for their sellers that will help them to lead to more referrals. So that's what this show is going to be about. So hopefully you guys are comfortable and you're ready to get started. And without any further introductions, let's go ahead and jump straight into the content of this episode. All right, today we are talking about the 10 ways to deliver an experience for your sellers that leads to referrals, right? So we all know that in order to get referrals, you need to deliver that exceptional experience to your sellers that makes them understand that you are going to deliver every single time they use you. And by doing so, and if you go above and beyond that service and you deliver more than any of the other competitors do, it's going to make them want to refer you to others, right? Because you've delivered an experience for them that ultimately led to accomplish what they want to accomplish, and that is to sell their home. And if you can walk this through a systematic way and create that experience for them, they will have no problem recommending you to their friends, families, and others, and other professionals as well. So that is the goal here. We are entering into a very competitive market where there's more realtors inside of the industry than ever. There's more ways that agents are beginning to market. And you've got to, as an agent, begin to kind of go back and revamp the way you've been doing things over the past couple of years, because we are going into a shift. You know, I think we're getting ready to move away from the times when you would list a property and you'd have all the multiple offers, and then you would obviously sell the property with one of those, and sometimes above asking price, right? Maybe it's still happening a little bit here, but we are watching the trends in the market, and I will say it's beginning to make a shift. I think you guys are beginning to experience that shift. So it is our due diligence to be able to equip ourselves to be able to figure out a way of a system and processes that deliver that consistent service over time so people want to refer us, right? So these are 10 things, 10 ways that I've kind of put together, not out of my own knowledge, but out of researching and asking questions of other top selling realtors and some of the things that they do to deliver upon this service. So we're going to get straight into this. Now, as I go through this content, what I am going to do is I'm going to begin with each topic, and then I'm going to ask you guys a question, because I want you guys to participate as well, because I don't want to ever be put in the position where I'm claiming to know all the answers. I know you guys watching actually have a lot of experience in doing a lot of these things. And I know you have a lot of value to give back to the community that's actually watching this video. So I want to rely on you guys to bring some content into this conversation. So do not be shy. You can't come on screen. You won't be speaking on screen or anything like that. But what I will do is I'll bring your comment up on the screen if you're watching this live. If you're not watching this live, that's perfectly fine too. Post your answer to these questions in the comments. We'll go back and we'll answer those later. So this is an ongoing conversation, and I want it to be. I want it to become a resource for you guys to go back to. All right, so with all that out of the way, let's get into the first question that we have, okay? So the question we have is, how do you go about getting to know your sellers? What are things that you do to get to know your sellers? And when I say get to know, I don't mean just general information, but like really, what do you do? What kind of questions do you ask your sellers in regards to their lives and what they do for their families, how many kids and dogs, how much what do you do to get to know them, right? So how do you go about getting to know your sellers? So share that with me. If you got some ideas and the ways you kind of pull information out of sellers, put them in the comments. We'll talk about those. All right. But here are some ways that I have kind of put together just to kind of give you some information right here. So the reality of this is the more that you know about your sellers, it gives you the better position to be able to help them with the sale of their home. It's very simple, right? If you ask about their hobbies and their interests and their family, this will ultimately help you build a rapport with them, and they will be more likely to trust you throughout the whole transaction. Right. And they're also going to be able to rely on you when you go to them, you start talking about tough strategies as far as, the price of their home or things they need to do to stage their home. If you know them and you connect with them, then you're going to be able to negotiate and work with them a little bit better. And I think this is where you're delivering that extra experience. It's not like you're just trying to get to know somebody just to get a sale, but you genuinely care about that person and you want to know who they are. So I encourage you guys to really kind of pull out information about your sellers, get to know them on a personal level. We were talking about this in the office, in one of our office meetings, and we talk about socializing and fellowship. And I brought this up there, but I want to talk about it again. So socializing is going into an environment where you say, hey, how's the weather? How's the kids? Those type of things. So it's a very generalization of conversation. But a fellowship with somebody else is going a little bit deeper with them. It's going in there and talking about their pains and their struggles. What are some things that they struggle with, and kind of understand, hey, if your kids got a bad grade, or if a pet passed away, or you get more involved where you actually relate to them on a personal level. By doing so, not only are you strengthening the bond that you have with them when it comes time to negotiate and work through difficult transactions, you're actually building a long-lasting relationship that ultimately leads to more referrals. And the byproduct of that also is good relationships with great people. So here's three things that I kind of want to bring up. So number one, what this does is it establishes trust with your sellers by getting to know them on a personal level. It takes the business aspect out of it and moves it into the more personal column. And I think that's a good thing for long-term and building that referral base. Number two, it gains valuable insight into their motivations for selling, which ultimately will help you better market the home. If you understand why they're wanting to sell and really get down to the nitty-gritty about what is going on there, it's going to help you if you are also the buyer's agent, help them move from one home to the next. But it's going to help you gain a little bit more insight about what is going on in their lives so you can better service them. Number three is this: create a connection with your sellers, which will make this selling process more smooth and less stressful for everyone involved, including yourself, them, the buyers, the banks, everything, because you know where they're coming from. So when they get more irrational, or they have emotion outbursts, whatever, you have a better understanding about what is going on with them. And I will say this: if you are intent in getting to know them, then you're going to be delivering a good service and a good expectation, or a good experience for your sellers. So I think that's all good. So ask them about their family, ask them about their jobs, ask them about their hobbies and interests, those type of things. Get to know them, right? Anyone have any comments on that? Feel free to post those. If you've got a creative way to actually communicate with, and you want to get to know your sellers, what are some of the things that you do to get to know your sellers? Post those in there. Number two is keep them informed. Keep them informed. Okay, this is a piece of the puzzle that we tend to kind of fall away from, right? We get the listing and then we move on and we start just posting on everything and marketing it, and we lose that information part where we're relaying information back to them. So keeping them informed. So before I get into the content, here's a question for you. This is the simple question I want to ask you guys. Leave it in the comments for me. Do you have any tips for keeping communication open and honest between you and your seller? What tips do you have that you can share inside of the comments about keeping an open conversation with your sellers, right? What are some of the ways you use? Do you talk to them weekly? And if you do, what kind of information do you deliver to them every single week? Do you send them a drip campaign? What are some of the ways that you communicate with your sellers? Share those in there. So one of the things I will say this is, it's a common statement from a lot of sellers is they never hear from their agent. They listed my property, I never heard from them. If that's a common statement that we hear, then to deliver a good experience for them is obviously to keep them informed. So your seller should never feel like they're in the dark about what is happening with their home ever. They should always be aware about what you're doing. And it comes down to developing some systems in place to make sure you keep them aware about what's going on with their home. So is it a weekly process? Is it a monthly process? Is it a market report? Those type of things. They need to know what is going on, and it needs to be communicated on a regular basis. Now, there's a trade-off here. The more listings you have, the more time it's going to take for you to keep all of your sellers updated. So that's where you got to begin to develop some systems to be able to put your information back out in front of them. So here's a couple things that I've pulled that I think that a lot of agents do, and I encourage you guys to do as well, is number one, send automated updates to your sellers on a regular basis so they never feel in the dark about what is going on. If it's a market update or if it's a neighborhood report, whatever it may be, communicate with your sellers about that. And you can with us, we have something called Golden Ruler. We can set up a safe search it gives a basic curates all the information from Zillow, Realtor.com, and sends a report to them. There's other programs out there that will do the same thing for you. If you don't have something like that, look at getting that, because it's an automated way to stay in contact with your seller and gives them information that's relevant to selling their home. We're going back from a shift here where the market's shifting a little bit. These homes could end up staying on the market for a little bit longer, which means more communication does need to happen. Number two is keep them informed of what stage their home is and how close they are to closing. So let's say it's impending, or you got it under contract. One of the things that happens, we have this disconnect when something goes under contract. We don't hear back from the bank or the loan officers or the other agent or underwriting, but we need to be proactive in getting information and relaying that back to our sellers. So if we make the calls and we make a habit of every week, we get an update on the home that's pending, and we pull information, we ask the right questions for the underwriters and loan officers and the other agent, and we get whatever we can, and we immediately relay that to our sellers. Because I will say, when something is under contract, if you're trying to sell your home, there's a lot of nerves at play here. There's a lot of nerves. So if you're delivering that consistent service while it's under contract, and they feel at peace and they know what's going on, they don't feel like they're in the dark as well when it's under contract, again, that experience that they're having is a good one. This will lead. These are simple things, right? This is not very complicated. It's just putting systems in place to do them. Number three is this: let them know how often you will be in touch and what they can expect from each interaction. So be honest up front. When you go in to meet with them, if you have a system in place that says, hey, I'm going to talk to you every single week about something, I'm going to relay some kind of information to you, either market data or what's going on with your home or what I've done in the past or who's been calling on it, what inquiries we've had, whatever the case may be. And if you're going to make a promise, you obviously need to stick to it, but have something in that initial conversation that you're saying to them that you're going to do, and then follow through with that. And then that leads me to the next one, number four: respond promptly to any questions or concerns that they may have throughout the process. Don't be afraid to speak the truth to your sellers. Tell them exactly what they need to hear. Okay, tell them the truth and respond promptly, even if the question seems a little bit maybe a nuisance, and maybe it's over and over the same question. They keep asking it. Answer it anyway. Answer it promptly. Be available to them. Right? Do not be a dark agent, a shadow agent. So just a suggestion for you, and I mentioned it earlier, is like send your seller a market update report every week. That just gives them a great snapshot. That's a tip just to kind of maybe set something up like that. And if you don't have a way to do that, pull MLS data, go to a Realtor Property Resource, pull some data, do something to send them some relevant information about what's going on with their home or in the market in general. And then I will say this too: meet with your sellers on a regular basis, maybe every other month or so, about comparables, and discuss what they can do to make their home more competitive and what they can expect in terms of offers. Because again, we're going into the market where things might be sitting on the market a little bit longer. These are just a way to kind of stay, informed, keep your sellers informed, but maybe set that up into your system of operation. I pulled a quote for you guys from Anthony Robbins, and it says, "The way we communicate with others and with ourselves ultimately determines the quality of our lives." And it's true. If we do care about people and we ultimately want to serve them well, then it's going to enhance our quality of our life as well. So it's a byproduct of doing this. So, okay. Next one is this: be available. Be available. Number three is just be available. Question for you: how do you manage your time to be available for your sellers? Like I was saying, it's really hard to, sometimes when you start getting a lot of listings, to be able to manage your time effectively. And you end up dropping the ball in some categories. And one of the things that will really hurt you to delivering a good experience for your sellers is if you don't follow through with what you say you're going to do. And being available to them is absolutely key for not being one of those dark shadow agents. So share with us in the comments some ways that you are available to your agents. How do you time manage? How do you time block? What are the things that you put in place to be able to implement that so you are effective with them? So share any ideas that you might have in regards to that. So, and this is the thing, if your sellers have any questions or concerns, they should be able to reach you easily. Okay, that's easy. And we live in this way where there's multiple ways of communication. We got email, text, and then you've got, now you've got like people communicate through Facebook and Instagram and Messenger and all those type of things, right? There's so many ways of you being able to be available to your sellers. What I would say is go through different ways and that you prefer to be communicated. And when you're meeting with a seller, you lay out, hey, at this, maybe between 8 and 7 p.m., I'm available by phone and text. After that, you can email me or message me through Messenger, whatever the case may be, but set up some parameters at the very beginning that work within your time frame, that work inside of your schedule, that your seller knows up front when they can reach you and when they can't reach you. By communicating that to them, you're actually being honest and you're actually taking control of your own time. So as you grow your business, you're not just freely giving away your time and the calls just constantly come in, and therefore you can't prospect, you can't grow, and those type of things begin to get in the way. So just be mindful of this, that you do need to be available for your sellers, but at the same time, you also got to manage your time. So what are some of the ways that you manage your time? So here's some tips for you. This is probably one of the easiest ways to kind of answer a lot of the questions that your seller might have as far as being available, is having a quick reply set up on your text messages for most frequently asked questions. Okay, there's a lot of common questions that we are asked, and it can take a lot of time to sit there and just respond to everybody. Well, all of our phones allow us, and even email clients allow us to create auto replies, and that we can just push a button and it sends those out. And there's a lot of common questions that come up. So think about doing that. You can do a Google search and pull up a lot of typical questions that realtors are asked by their sellers or their buyers and create auto replies to that. So take the time to do that. That'll automate some of these processes. And then we talked about this too. Set the expectations about what you're going to do in the relationship and be clear about what is and is not included in your service at the beginning. So when you meet with them for the first time, tell them how you're going to communicate and how you're available to them. Communicate that with them, and then make sure it aligns with the services that you deliver. And then we talked about this too. Have a system for communication in place that allows you to be responsive to inquiries in a timely manner. We will get a lot of inquiries. You'll list a property, and then all of a sudden the calls and texts and everything start coming in, the leads, other agents, all this kind of stuff starts happening once you get that listing. You do need to have a system in place that allows you to be able to communicate very effectively with all of them. So just keep that in mind. Develop those systems to keep all that together. Okay? All right. Number four is this: keep your promises. Now, on the surface, this seems like just an easy thing. Well, duh, yes, if I say I'm going to do something, I should follow through with that. But in actual practice, it can be kind of difficult, right? So before I get into this, another question for you guys now or in the comments later, perfectly fine, is how do you make sure that you keep your promises to your sellers? What are some of the things that you have in place already that you can share here that you have and promises that you make to your sellers? And how do you make sure that you keep those? Like, what are some of the ways that you have developed in the systems that make sure that you follow through? Like, if I say I'm going to communicate with my seller once a week, what system do I have in place that allows me to be able to make sure that I do that and I don't let it fall, a seller fall through the crack? What are some of the systems that you have in place? Like, do you have anything like that in place? If you do, share some of your systems here. So, and it's simple. If you tell your clients you're going to do something, you simply do it. And that's whether it's following up on a lead, arranging for showings, or meeting deadlines. It's important that you deliver on your promises. But why is this important? I mean, it's kind of funny to even ask that. Why is this important? But it actually is kind of surprising sometimes how many agents don't really realize that they make promises and they say, well, yeah, I'll send that to you, or yes, I'll get that done, or yes, we'll do this. Or you go into the listing appointment and you say, I do an open house for all my listings. I communicate once a week. And you make these statements because your goal is to get the listing. And then in the end, you've said it, but yet those things fall through the crack. Now, it's not an intentional, misrepresentation or mispromise. It's that you didn't have the systems in place to deliver on your promises. So I caution everybody. It's like if you go into a meeting or you go into a listing appointment and we have something here at Center 21 called our Seller Service Pledge. And it has a list of a bunch of items on there that we say we're going to do. We say as agents, we are going to represent you based on what this says. This is how we're going to service you. And I challenge the agents, read that. And if you don't adhere to that pledge and you're not following through with that, you are making a promise to them. And if you don't follow through with that, then you've not kept your promise. And that's going to fall into the expectation your seller has now let down, and you've not delivered that experience that they ultimately want to have. And it makes them less likely to do what? Refer more people to you. So, these are easy things, but they do require you to kind of dive in a little bit and look at your business and kind of begin to dissect this. So why is it important? It's always keep your promise this leads to a good reputation and trustworthiness. I will say this, and a perfect example is one bad mistake resonates longer and more long-term than all of the good that you can do. To get momentum on the good things that you do requires sometimes years of just consistent service. One bad broken promise, one lie can have major consequences long-term. So if you make a promise, you do need to keep it because it helps ultimately your reputation and it does build trustworthiness between you and your seller. And that is what people are really looking for. They really want that. They want that before they refer people to you. And this is a referral-based business. It also, why is it important? You follow through even when things get tough in order to maintain client satisfaction. If your ultimate goal is to make sure the client is satisfied, then you are going to follow through with your promises. And in the end, they're going to get exactly what they want, and it maintains that client satisfaction. Always being transparent about what you can and cannot do so you don't make promises you can't keep is how you continue to build trust. Again, going back to what we were saying, anything you say you're going to do, you need to follow up with it. Simply put, it's the right thing to do. Brian Tracy says this: the glue that holds all relationships together, including the relationship between the leader and the led, is trust. And trust is based on integrity. And I'm telling you right now, and we all know this, this is absolutely true. When you lose trust and someone loses trust in you, it's really, really difficult to get that back. Even in your personal life, think about how much harder it would be on the business side of things, where it's a business transaction. That lack of trust can have major consequences very quickly and really over time. I've seen real estate agents ruin their careers by not following through on their promises. All right, number 5, make sure all of your marketing materials are top-notch quality. Top-notch quality. Question for you guys: how do you make sure that your marketing materials stand out from the competition? There are all the flyers we have out there, all the open house flyers we have, the brochures, the social media ads, the drip campaigns, the emails, all those marketing pieces. Is there anything that you guys are currently doing that you would like to share here that would set other agents apart? Leave it in the comments, leave it here. I'd love to bring it up and talk about that. So here's the thing. One of the things we used to go back and harp on, and this is maybe 5-10 years ago, we used to say, make sure you have, really good photos. Okay. Like, you got to have high-end photos. And that's absolutely true. That's the beginning of quality. I would say start there. If you have, when you upload a photo to the MLS and it's crooked or whatever, realize that goes out everywhere. That ends up on every website. Zillow, everything pulls that. That goes everywhere. Descriptions in the MLS, if you have mistakes and grammatical errors, they go out everywhere. And those same grammatical mistakes will show up on all the flyers that you print and all the automated stuff that you do. So first and foremost, start with good quality photos. Then make sure your description is correct, and then begin to kind of understand kind of what you're trying to do. How are you going to differentiate yourself between all the other agents out there that are marketing? What are you going to do to stand out? What about your website? What about your flyers that you're making, the email campaigns? They all should look very professional and very polished. And to be honest, they should also have a very consistent brand. They should all look very similar. When someone looks at this, they should say, oh, that's my realtor, or, oh, that's this agent. They need to be able to look at that and say, yep, that's them. And branding can take multiple years to build, but you do need to make sure you have some kind of branding there, because when someone wants to refer you and they had a good experience, It's easy when they give a card out and that card looks like your flyers, it looks like your website, it looks like, your social media ads, your drip campaigns. So when they refer you and then you get that content information and you begin to send out those drip campaigns, you begin to communicate and all that branding looks the same, they understand who you are. And it looks very, very professional to them. So work on those materials. Work on those. So this is important because professional looking marketing materials give your clients the impression that you're a serious, credible business. I mean, you think about any company out there that's been in business for a long amount of time, they've done really, really good at branding. Their branding is top notch, right? And if you look at Chick-fil-A, you look at Amazon, you look at eBay, you look at Walmart, by me simply saying those names, I guarantee you immediately thought of a color and you knew what the logo looked like, right? So make sure that you have continuity in all of your marketing pieces because it is true. It makes you look professional. It also allows you to stand out from the competition because I see it all the time. I see agents that are constantly changing their marketing materials around because they want to be flashier. They think they want to be all more pretty. They want to be this way or that way. I hate to break it to you, but the consumer doesn't care. They do not care if you have graphics going everywhere and it's got all kinds of graphics on there. What they do care is what you're going to do for them, how you're going to serve them, and that they know who you are and what you stand for. That's what they care about. So if your branding has consistency throughout, that's exactly what they're going to associate with you. So it's okay if you start off branding with all the marketing, all the bells and whistles and the floral and the pictures and stuff like that, but just be consistent across all of your marketing. Be consistent. And one of the best byproduct is they'll be more likely to remember who you are. They'll be more likely to remember who you are. Some ideas: highlight the unique selling points of the property in a glossy brochure on a specialized website. So here we have unique property websites that are automatically created for our agents, and it's for every single property, and it has a consistent look through all those websites. So that's something you can do. Make sure that's consistent. Produce a video tour of the property and post it on popular video sharing sites like YouTube, Facebook, all those areas, Instagram, all those type of things. Make the branding consistent. And then maybe create a custom for sale sign that stands out. Obviously, you got to adhere to any kind of franchise guidelines or state laws, but you can kind of get a little bit of creative on that to stand out from the crowd. So there's some ideas for you guys. Next one is number 6, stay positive. Simply stay positive. So this is a simple question here for you. How do you stay positive with your sellers? How do you stay positive with your sellers even when things don't go as planned? If you've been in this industry at all for any length of time, you understand that pretty much every single transaction never goes as planned. It just never does. It falls apart at some point, and you have emotions and everything, and the seller comes in, and who are they mad at the most? Who do they get angry at the most? Typically, it's you, the agent, right? So, hey, share. What are some ways that you stay positive with your sellers even when they don't go the way they're supposed to go? Like, share with us some of those things because it's a challenging thing. And I have noticed this multiple times where those negative moments ultimately over time change the whole demeanor of an agent because it let them just eat them alive, and they get very cynical about people. So managing this and trying to stay positive is truly key because if you can do that, then you're rising above the emotional aspect of selling and representing sellers, and you're focused on that relationship back to the beginning, and you're still focused on delivering that good experience for the seller, which then ultimately leads to referrals, right? So, and we know this is one of the most stressful times that a seller has. So staying positive, they're going to then look to you as the source of information for all the guidance and the support. And then they're going to rely and feel confident to work this out over time, which is going to ultimately lead to the ultimate goal that they want, is to close on their home. And it's a win-win. So by staying positive, you will be a calming force for the seller, and they will appreciate it. They will appreciate that calming force. When they call, they feel like they can vent. They can tell you everything that's going on. You're calm and level-headed. Now, we're human. We're going to have maybe multiple cases like this where they call us and they're griping and upset and everything like that. Perfectly fine. Guess what you have at your disposal? You have people in your office that you can go and vent to. Go vent to your fellow realtor about how crazy your seller is and let off steam, get it out of there. But then with your seller, you stay professional and you are that calm guidance. Another thing it will do is a positive attitude will show your seller that you are confident in your ability to sell their home. It really will. It'll show them that you understand what's going on. You've been here before. You can maintain your posture and guide them through this transaction, which ultimately builds trust in them. They will remember this. It is essential to stay positive in order to maintain a good relationship with your seller. You do not want to lash back out. That's the worst thing you could do, is lash back out at your seller. You want to continually build that relationship. Think about developing some scripts, some just dialogues when an agent calls you and they're upset about something. Think about developing just some quick dialogue scripts. Again, I like the automation process, not that scripts are automated, but yet you have that quick responses that help you to stay calm and maintain your composure. So like maybe you're like, hey, I know the market is tough. I understand we're having a hard time selling your home and there's some issues that's come up. But we're going to make it through this together. Okay, I'm here. I'm committed for you. We're going to work this out. Or I understand that you're frustrated, right? I understand, but do not worry. We're going to get through this. Those type of comments are calming. You're validating. You're saying, I understand. Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, it is rough right now. We got some hiccups. We've got to work through. But I've got a team behind me that we're going to rely on. You're not alone in this. I'm with you. My goal is to help you sell your home as well. So let's work together and trying to figure out a solution here. Or I know you're disappointed right now. I know it's not going the way you wanted it to go, but let's make sure that we do keep our spirits high and we work towards a solution, right? These are the comments that you really want to kind of get out there, because it's ultimately going to put you in a position of a professional. Okay. All right. So number 7 is have a well-defined process in place. A well-defined process in place. This is a big key. We were talking about this even at the very beginning, and almost all of these fall into some kind of category as this, is if your seller knows exactly what they're going to expect every time they list a home with you, then they will feel confident referring you out. And it's going back through all of these points. And I know there's a lot of information here. That's why it's recorded. You can go back and watch this and dissect this and figure out and plug holes in your own business. But selling a home can be a very complicated thing, from going from the initial listing appointment to actually getting a listing, to negotiating offers and showings, and then under contract and getting to closing. You've got to have a process and a system for each one of those. You've got to develop something. And I will say there are tons and tons and tons of those out there. You can do a quick Google search and find all kinds of ways that agents represent their sellers and checklists and items that they do. And so be proactive in developing your system. Figure out what works for you, the service you want to deliver, how you want to respond to difficult situations. All of those things need to be ironed out. So question for you is this: do you have a process checklist that you always do for your sellers? If so, share some of those with us. Like, what are some of the things that you have developed? And is it an itemized list? And I always do this when I go to a listing appointment. When I get a call for a showing, this is my process to let my seller know of the showing, what's going to happen with that. Here's my process to get offers. Here's what happens when we negotiate. Here's what happens when we go to closing. Do you guys have any great tips and processes and checklists that you use? Right? Share. All right. So here's some keys on why this is important. We kind of discussed this a little bit, but one, having a defined process helps to ensure that no steps are missed. This is key. Let's do a little scenario here. And this is probably an extreme one, but let's say you had a surgery scheduled, okay? And you had a surgeon that had a checklist that they operated from for your surgery. Every single time you needed the surgery done or whatever the case may be, they had an itemized system that you could even see and say, at this point, and this point, and this point, this is what I'm going to do. And you contrast that to another surgeon that you go in and he says, well, typically I'll do this. Typically I might follow up with this kind of follow-up. And when I go to get you, a sleep, we kind of maybe begin with this. And they're very loose in their communications with you about their processes. Which one are you going to trust more? That's an extreme case. I mean, obviously we're not surgeons, but the premise is still true, right? If I go into a listing appointment and I say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here is what I'm going to do now. Here's what I'm going to do when we get under contract. Here's what I'm going to do closing. Here's what I'm going to do after the closing. You think about building the confidence there, right? So if I have those processes in place, I'm delivering a consistent service to them. Why wouldn't they refer me back? they would absolutely refer me to other people, right? Because they know exactly what to expect. They know that I laid out a system for them that worked and I executed upon that. And then they're going to recommend me because they know I'm going to do that with their friends. So having a defined process helps to ensure that no steps are missed. It provides a roadmap for both the agent and the seller, which is key. They know exactly where we're going and where we're heading to get there. They get that down. They understand it. It minimizes the stress and the confusion that can come from this. I mean, because it's a confusing process. Like when you call them up, we as agents understand so many more terms. The consumer just doesn't understand that. So when a bank calls them and say, oh, it's an underwriting, well, they're like, well, what does that mean? Does that mean we're not going to close? Like, what does that mean? So, being able to, have a process in place that describes what underwriting is and how that works while their home is impending, it helps. It helps to diffuse and minimizes that stress and that confusion. And it also streamlines the selling process for a smooth and successful transaction. It just streamlines it. They know what to expect. It makes it go through. It leads to more referrals. It really does. All right. Number 8, know your stuff inside and out. Know it all. We talk about this. We're so cliche with this, but I want to be the person that they come to for all of the information. That's still true. I mean, I understand we hear it all the time. I want to be the source of their information. I want to be the giver of all, and they come to me as their source to understand what's going on in the market. It's true. You want to be that person, and especially if you're trying to deliver a service that is a great experience to the sellers that you currently have. You've got to do that. You've got to be knowledgeable on what's going on. So, question again, where do you learn the most about the real estate market that helps you to stay informed about the real estate market? What sources do you use? Do you go on to the National Association of Realtors and you pull data from there? Do you read reports from Fox News, CBS, NBC? Where are you pulling information? Like, what do you guys do that helps you stay informed to deliver that information to your sellers? So the reality is you do need to be an expert in all of the selling processes, from pricing, from staging, to negotiating, to marketing, all of those things. You have to be experts in all of them. Our jobs can be very, very difficult, but those that are experts in these categories and they work at learning and are diligent in learning these things are delivering a good experience that leads to a massive referral business. It leads to a massive referral business. So if your sellers have questions, you should be able to be the one that provides those answers. Now, that also means that you don't have to have the answer for every single question you are asked. Because when you sit down with them, going back to your processes, maybe this is something you put into your listing presentation and you make sure that you say is, hey, you can always ask me any real estate question. I do my best to stay informed and educated on what's going on in the market, what's going on with your home, but I don't know everything. But I will promise you this, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that if I don't have the answer, I've got someone on my team or I know another professional that can get the answer for you. So you can ask me any question you want and know that I'm going to answer to my best ability or also know where to find the answer. Okay, that's a professional, right? So that's why they call it practicing law, practicing medicine, right? We're practicing real estate. We don't have all the answers, but we are meant to be able to be knowledgeable in pretty much all categories, right? We do want to be that. So as a real estate agent, you should be an expert on every aspect of the selling process. You should be able to provide answers to your sellers' questions. And if you don't know the answer, find out and get back to them as quickly as possible. By being an expert on selling, you'll be able to help your sellers get the best price for their property. You really will. You'll also be able to market the property effectively, increasing the chances that it will sell quickly and for more than the asking price. It can happen if you understand what's going on in the market. So be current. Stay informed. Stay informed. All right, go number 9. We're almost there, guys. 2 more. Go above and beyond. Above and beyond. Now, this is a question I hope someone chimes in and leaves some in the comments on this, because this is where you put that icing on the cake, right? It's like all these other agents are doing these things. This is what almost every agent does, right? I go into listing appointment, I list the home, I sell the home, I market the home, whatever. All those things do. What are some of the things? What are some of the unique things that you've done for your sellers? What are some things that you're doing that set you apart from all the competitors, because I know you guys are doing those things. Now, you might be afraid to share them here because, oh, wait, this is a public forum and I'm giving away my trade secrets. But here's the thing. If you keep everything so close to the chest, you actually limit your own growth. Because by sharing to other people, you're empowering them, and it ultimately puts you in a position of influence. And I don't know anybody that loses from being in a position of influence ever. And if someone does take your great idea, it forces you to be more creative and more inventive with another idea as well to put back into your services. I've never known anybody to give away trade secrets that didn't excel in their business by doing so. I've never seen it. Think about that. But if you have something, share it. It's beneficial for all of us. So, and this is kind of the key too. It's all about finding those small little kind of ways, those little ways that just kind of put a little bit more in there. Like, I'm not just going to listing appointment. I'm not just making a call and making a touch, right? And it could be as simple as just dropping off some flowers when you heard that they were going through something difficult. Maybe it's in the transaction and the gutter needs to be cleaned, right? Maybe, they're staging the home and a room just needs to be painted or whatever, and you offer to help, right? Not saying you have to do any of these things, but what are some of those small little micro moments that you can serve those sellers that truly do grow your relationship with them? Because, I mean, to be frank, this is kind of where you can really grow a great referral business from, because they will talk more about these little moments of just above and beyond than they will about just the typical service they get from other realtors, right? Because you're in tune, you're focused on them. So this is important because they value their business, and the extra mile will set you apart from other agents. So this will set you apart. It shows that you are truly invested in them. It just does. I encourage you guys to do it. All right, final one. Here we go. Final one. And this is the one where I think been guilty of it myself many, many times. I think a lot of agents probably are too, just because it's out of mind, out of thought, out of mind. And I'm just encouraging you guys, because this is the one too that is just long-term thinking. Number 10, follow up after the sale. Follow up after the sale. So what kind of follow-up do you usually do with your sellers after a sale? What are some of the ways that you stay in communication, you stay knowledgeable about them, you grow with them, and you still keep a relationship with them? What are some of the ways that you do that? What are some of the things that you do to stay in contact? What are some things you share with them long-term? Do you go back and give them the closing statement a year later so they have it for their property taxes? Do you do that? It's a simple touch, right? So what are some of the things that you do to follow up with them after the sale and long-term? What are some of the things that you do? After everything is said and done, here's one. Don't forget to thank your seller. Send them a thank you note. Write a note and mail it. Oh man, the sweet simplicity of a simple letter in the mail. Wow. I mean, it's just a missed thing in our society where we just don't get that handwritten note. And I will say it is awesome when you get one, right? So think about that. That's just one thing, right? I mean, it's just touch base with them, follow up after the sale, figure out a system and a process that keeps you in front of them, that keeps you right there in front of your sellers. I mean, don't forget about them. Understand their family and what their families are doing, their kids, all those type of things. Stay in communication. Germany Kent said this: if you're not reaching back to help anyone, then you're not building a legacy. And I like a legacy. All the transactions that you have, all the clients you've worked with, buyer and seller, all of them, do you stay in contact with them? Do you have something in place that allows you to stay in contact with them for the long haul? Because those are all referrals, but those are people you build a relationship with. You help them navigate a very difficult process. Don't forget about them. Figure out a way to follow up. Most of these things, all these 10 items that we listed out, well, there's one tool in particular that helps with a lot of this to help you stay on point, and that's a good contact relation management software, right? CRMs. They allow you to have a database to put all this information in. They allow you to create systems and drip campaigns and all this kind of stuff. So we've got technology that allow us to automate a lot of these things. Are you doing that in your business to actually help you be consistent in your delivery? A little tip I will say when it comes to CRMs is maybe developing a drip campaign inside of your system that doesn't actually go to the client, but goes to you. Like, if you're wanting to follow up with your sellers once a week, then, and you have an idea about what you want to share with them every single week or once a month or whatever the case may be, you have my seller follow-up drip campaign, and you map out everything you want to do. Maybe you address each one of these 10 items inside of a drip campaign. And when you take your seller and you put them into your CRM, you assign yourself a drip campaign that sends you an email and reminder of who that client is and what you're supposed to be doing. Just a thought. It might help you to be automated where you don't have to keep all these checklists and all these items to go, and it keeps you on point, right? Just think about ways to develop systems and processes that help you address a consistent service to deliver a great experience for your sellers, because it will lead to referrals. Okay. All right, guys. Awesome. It was fun. I enjoy coming here and hanging out with you all. If you have not, please consider liking and subscribing to this YouTube channel. I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this. Go back, dissect it, reach out to me. I asked a bunch of questions. I get it. Go back and leave them in the comments if you have something to share. That would be great. But I do thank you all, as always, for tuning in to this live show. Next week, we'll do it again. I'm working on a couple of guests as well, so it's going to be a good show. We're going to continue this series and focusing on sellers. I still want to really hammer on that, because that is the name of the game right now. I really want to help you guys get equipped with your sellers. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you guys, as always. Until next time, be fearless, keep pushing forward, never stop being relentless in your pursuit of excellence. I'm Adam Gullett. I will see you next week. Take care.